Welcome to the official start of this channel's Fallout 20th anniversary. For those that don't know, link will be in the description for last year's Fallout celebration. Not gonna do one every year, but last year was Fallout's 20th, and this year is Fallout's 20th anniversary, so I had to do something. This summer, you will see a good amount of Fallout videos on top of my other stuff too. It won't just be Fallout, but more Fallout videos than usual. Now, Fallout 2. I got my notes here. I'm gonna be all over the place, you know how it is. This is just a laid back discussion and I'm just gonna talk and ramble on. I'm sure you'll like it. Obviously there will be spoilers, but you should know that for this video. Just a heads up, I'm not going to be talking about the cut content that was put in a restoration mod in this video. I want to make a separate video about Fallout 2's cut content. Not only the stuff that was added in the restoration mod, but the stuff that's still on the drawing table that wasn't put in the game or in any mod at all. I just want to make a separate video about that. Sit back and enjoy. Fallout 2. What a crazy game. Let's take a step back and think about it. In this game you will run into Mafioso, the Yakuza, the Enclave, leftovers from the Master's army. You can be a porn star and you can drive a damn car and more. Fallout 2 is an interesting follow-up to Fallout. It didn't have a long development time. It literally came out a year after the first game. And I remember my first playthrough, looking at the intro video and wondering, who the fuck are these guys with these bug helmets and why are they so cruel? They just shot that family for no reason. As soon as they stepped out the vault, they got Gatling gunned to death. Just ripped apart. What the fuck? Who are these guys? Wait a minute, and there's more. I'm a part of a tribe, I'm a descendant of the Vault Dweller, and I gotta find a Garden of Creation kit to save my village? What the fuck? Wait a minute, who did the fucking Vault Dweller fuck anyways? When did all this happen? Yes, that is a serious question. Anyway, I made my character, and just like my character in the first Fallout game, I focused on high agility, high luck, and somewhat good perception. The usual. I wanted to get high luck so I could try to find all the special encounters, and I tagged speech, small guns, and lockpick. Of course I had to go with bloody mess, and I tagged gifted so I can have some extra points in my special stats. Then the game starts off after I make my character with quite a controversial level. The Chosen One has to prove himself before starting his journey in the Temple of Trials. Now this caused frustration for many people, and I was one of those people during my first playthrough. And what's the problem, some of you may be asking? Well, the problem is, it's not just filled with weak enemies. That's not the problem. I can go through ants like easy. It's not a long level, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's one thing that makes it annoying. You use a damn spear, and the problem is, I don't make melee strong characters, so I'm sitting there swinging at these bastards forever trying to get one hit. I hated this level at first, because I'm literally just grabbing this fucking spear, and I get it. I understand you're a part of a tribe. What do tribes use? Spear, but you can't give me some fucking rock or something, because something else. Let me find a gun somewhere. It can even be like a little fucking BB gun. But no, I have to use this spear and swing 100 times just to kill something. I don't play melee focused characters in Fallout. That's just not my style. So I gotta grab this fucking spear and whack creatures 100 times just to kill them. Whoever put that fucking part in there, they did it to troll us. I swear they did. So I just decided to run past everything until the final part. And thanks to me being a charismatic, handsome devil that I am, of course, I was able to talk to my fellow tribesmen and get out of a fight that was obviously going to be tough because all I had was a damn spear and my melee skill was like 10%. Now that's what I call having a sharp tongue. Always invest in speech, folks. Always invest in speech. In the first Fallout game, Vault 15 is where I really got immersed in the game. The eerie music in the background, the feeling of absolute total isolation, and that feeling of dread wondering what's coming on the next floor, what's around that corner. There's a certain moment in a video game you enjoy where you go from being interested to completely being immersed, and from there on, you are attached to this game. In Fallout 2, that moment was when I entered MODOK. As soon as I left the den, I went east for a little bit until I found this small little town, and that theme started playing. Just listen to it. It's so calming. It makes you feel hopeful, but also makes you feel uncertain at the same time. I let my character sit there for 20 minutes just to listen to this theme. I think this theme describes Fallout 2 perfectly. Fallout takes place 80 years after the first game. I believe so, so I'm intentionally thinking off the top of my head instead of looking at wikis right now to test my Fallout trivia, but I believe it's 80 or close to 80 years after the first game. It's been dozens of years since the Vault Dweller eliminated the Master and the super mutant threat. They aren't a major threat anymore. In fact, some of them function in society. Look at Broken Hill, for example. They have a super mutant that used to be in the Master's army a long time ago as their sheriff. It can't get more accepting than that, although there's some shady shit that goes on in that town too. For those of you that played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Also, some other things come into play too in Fallout 2. A new drug called Jet enters the world. That's right, no matter what bullshit retcon they try to change the lore, no matter what happens in the future of any Fallout game, we all know Jet was invented by Myron. It was introduced in Fallout 2, end of story. Anyway, the world seems optimistic. Sure, it's still shitty. It's survival of the fittest in the basic sense of that, and sometimes that can mean some really cruel shit. Innocent people getting killed on a grand scale, people getting robbed, and just doing whatever it takes to survive. When people are left to the bare essentials and they don't even have that, when they have to fight and struggle for it, people really turn into animals and we really see what happens. But we all know that, especially some of y'all. Depends on where we grew up. I know that. I didn't grow up in the best area, but shit, compared to some places in the world, I'm sure I'm not fucking preaching to the choir there. Anyways, there you go with me rambling, but that's what you get in this video. But anyways, there's optimism in the world even though it's shitty. I mean, if some super mutants can make peace with humans and even blend in with them for the sake of survival, even though less than 100 years ago, super mutants were raising hell and trying to take over the area, there has to be some hope. That's what I think about when I'm playing Fallout 2 and hear MODOK's theme. MODOK is an area that made me realize I'm immersed in this game just like the first Fallout, and a major reason for that is because of Ghost Farm. The Ghost Farm is an area inhabited by a group of people that call themselves Slags, and certain people in MODOK feel that this place is haunted by ghosts, hence the name Ghost Farm. The people of MODOK also hear these tales of people disappearing there, and I have to admit, when I first went to this place, I didn't know what to expect, but it was pretty morbid at first glance. You see this long line of neatly placed things that look like dead bodies just decimated, all nicely placed in a row. A long march of death and lost souls, a reminder of what this world really is. And when you first look at this area, you think it's the worst of the worst, the realization that this is the reality, this is what you live in, until you do some investigating and you find out that this was all a misunderstanding between the Slags and the people of MODOK. They have something in common, they are just trying to survive, and the Slags are not violent lunatics or anything supernatural. They're just people doing whatever it takes to survive. The dead bodies, they're just props. They're just things to try to get people to not attack them. They're trying to play psychological games with people that they think might harm them, so they're just trying to get them to go away. They're using fake props and scaring off people to protect themselves, and the people of MODOK, they took this for something else, completely different. I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking, once again, a Fallout game has me hooked. This was the point that I knew I was going to be hooked on this game. I believe the MODOK Ghost Farm confrontation, the beef that they have with each other, and everything that happened, I think this is a good side quest, and I think it's one of the stronger points of Fallout 2. When I go and play a big RPG, I try to look for side quests to have some depth into it, and something that I can really sink my teeth into, and Ghost Farm was that side quest. The first side quest. It's not the only thing, but as I said before, when I first played this game, as soon as I left the den, and that's not very far into the game at all, that's right in the beginning, I went into MODOK, so that was really one of the first really good side quests that I ran into in the game, and I think it worked well. It had a nice touch of suspense, had a nice touch of visuals because you see that long row of things that look like dead bodies, and a nice surprise at the end too with the people not being what you thought they were at first, because at the beginning it does seem like that. All the visuals and all the stories, and when you first get at the place, you think the worst of the people that live here because it just looks like that. And then there's some stuff that happens that just throws you off, and I think it's nicely placed. It's a good little distraction from the main story in Fallout. It doesn't have to be anything extremely long or something so fucking philosophical that you have to think about it for 40 hours, even though there's nothing wrong with that. I can take anything, but it's just a nice little side quest. That's when I really got hooked into the game. And since this is Fallout 2, you don't have to be diplomatic. You can completely buy into the false hysteria and fuck over the slags. You can completely fuck over quote-unquote Ghost Farm and just raid the area and fuck it up if you want to be an asshole. But for this playthrough, I was trying to be a nice guy, trying to be the savior of the wasteland, a saint, a pariah, whatever the fuck you want to call it, an angel, a pretty little angel. Well, a handsome little Hispanic angel. What can I say? I'm nice sometimes. Sometimes though. Gotta keep this tough guy persona up, but for this playthrough, I was playing a good guy. Now, Fallout 2 is bigger than Fallout, and it takes itself less seriously. You can tell by some of the areas and things you can do, and plenty of pop culture references. For example, two come to mind: Kick Ass and Chew Bubblegum, and The Few, The Proud, The Mercenaries. Two references concerning the Marine Corps and the movie They Live. And some people give it flack for that. I can understand. Humor has always been a part of Fallout, but Fallout 2 really did ramp it up, and it was on steroids with some of their wacky stuff. I mean, as I said before, one of the titles you can get is Porn Star. Now, if I was in that world, I would want to have sex. I mean, I would. But can I really trust the condoms in that world? Do you really think they work after all that happened? Are they able to make new ones? Damn. Imagine getting an STD. I'm sure you can get healed, but what if you can't? And what if all that radiation made some super STD like super chlamydia or super AIDS, ultra gonorrhea? Yo, fuck that. You gotta take care of yourself. Is it even worth it to go raw dogging in a wasteland? Damn it. That's a tough choice as I never want to make. But I do admit, if I'm in a wasteland, if I'm in a post-apocalyptic world, if I'm in Fallout, wherever the hell I am, if I do see a cute woman or a cute guy that likes to dress up, I don't like using the word trap anymore. I've used it too much. It's kind of played out, so I'll just say femme guy. If I see a cute little feminine guy, then yeah, I'd probably go for it. Damn be the consequences. I could be in the middle of a fucking apocalypse and see if they're interested. Hey, you would too. Let's not lie. Come on. We're all adults here, so fuck it, right? Anyway, this is a somewhat silly game, but it's not all fun and games. There are some really depressing, serious moments. Remember, you can become a slaver in this game, and that's pretty dark, rounding up humans and sentencing them to a life of labor and misery. You can be cool with mafia families and do dirt for them, and a certain interaction with Myron, but overall, it's a bit lighter approach compared to the first, and really came out of nowhere. You gotta think about this in terms of the year 1998. You just got Fallout a year earlier, a tighter, more linear, but still open world, and it's haunting, it's immersive, atmospheric, and it's pretty serious. And then Fallout 2 takes the formula and flips it on its head by taking itself less seriously. It looks the same and it's still Fallout, but the way it approaches the formula is a bit different. Me personally, I like this change. And just like Fallout, there's a ton of replayability, playing the game with different builds, and of course, doing one of my favorite things to do in the Fallout series, playing the game with a low intelligence character. And Fallout 2 did not disappoint. It followed the first one up very well. The way your character talks, and that's one of the things that I like about the classic Fallouts, is the way that they portray low intelligence characters. They're not just stupid. It's not that they just can't do certain things or they can't solve complex puzzles or anything. They're just fucking retarded. Like, they're really stupid. They talk like cavemen, like a low intelligence character. In Fallout 2, he'd be saying stuff like, "Me no soldier," things like that. And the way the world reacts to your dumbass character is hilarious. Talking to Tandy in the NCR, or trying to go into the Enclave with a dumb character, the way the soldier reacts to you. One person in the world gave me a fucking cookie when I was in town. I guess she felt sorry for me because she knew I was a dumbass. That's hilarious. And I recommend doing a playthrough as a low intelligence character. Just be ready for getting a cookie and caveman talk. I was listening to a podcast, and someone called Fallout 2 archaic and chaotic, especially compared to Fallout, and I agree with that. But I like that. The world is fucking chaos. Look at all the stuff they threw in there in a small period of time. The Hobologists, the old gangs like Yakuza and Mafia, the Wanamingos, the Enclave, and goddamn, they jump you like a motherfucker. Even at higher levels, it was a pain for me. I got through it, and it's a lot easier now that I know the game. But the Enclave are just like a little fucking gang of thugs. They jump you 4 or 5 at a time, and they're very powerful. It's a tough choice between which game I like more, but I choose Fallout 2. I like it a little bit better. But play both games and dissect them, play them multiple times and understand them. As much as I love Fallout 2, there are some things that became a bit more troublesome in my eyes, and reading about the development, it's easy to understand why. Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and Jason Anderson, 3 people who were very important to the first Fallout game. I mean, Tim Kaine is the fucking father of Fallout, and Leonard Boyarsky and Jason D. Anderson, they're just as important. They left to form Troika Studios after working on the game for a little bit, and they left the team with descriptions of certain areas and the story concept. I was listening to this podcast called Watch Out for Fireballs, and I recommend that. And they had Chris Avellone on in one of their episodes, and he talks about his part in the development of the game and how short and hectic it was. Think about this, Chris Avellone was working on Fallout 2 and Planescape Torment at the same time. That is fucking insane. I will leave a link in the description to the podcast. You should listen to it because it's very interesting. And in the podcast, he admitted that he doesn't feel that some of the cities really connect to the overall world. Cities like Vault City and New Reno, he feels that they don't connect with the rest of the game. And I can see why. In Fallout 2, you run into places like Klamath, The Den, Modoc, and Broken Hills. These areas are different but look pretty similar. They look like little rundown towns just trying to survive. Then you see New Reno with all its flashing lights and casinos, and it does look out of place even though I love New Reno. And I don't think this would have happened if Tim Kaine didn't leave. Although I'm mixed on this overall approach. I think it does hurt the game a little bit. But I think New Reno, Vault City, and San Francisco are strong enough areas on their own that it just kind of masks that. And yes, this could be looked at as me being a little bit biased, and I will admit it probably is biased, but it's something I can forgive. Chris also admitted that he spent the most time working on New Reno, and it shows because that area has a lot to do, and it's probably top 3 best areas in Fallout 2. I'm probably going to go with... that's a tough one. I'm not sure, but definitely one of the top 3 best fucking areas in the game, for sure. And he wasn't the only one working on the game, but he had certain tasks. I was also thinking about something else, and it is true. With a lot of the quests, you do go outside the area to either solve it or figure out major parts instead of solving it internally. I have no issues with that, and this could be also me being biased again, but I can admit that I do see criticism with the out of place feel of certain areas, and since it was rushed, other things also needed more time too, but I'll get to that a bit later. Now, I just want to gloat about something. After I beat Fallout 1, I was wondering what the hell happened to that jackass overseer. I wondered if Fallout 2 would ever answer my question. What the fuck happened to him? Me personally, I hate that motherfucker. His reasoning for expelling the Vault Dweller from his home after he saved everyone is bullshit. I'm sorry, you're a hero, but you gotta leave. People will want to go out after they listen to your stories. I'm sorry, I gotta kick you out. What the fuck? Bullshit, you already opened the vault. No matter what happens, people will want to leave. Especially if you kick the Vault Dweller out, people will want to go after him. It took me a while, but after going to Vault 13 and seeing how it is dozens of years later, I finally got my answer, and I sat there with a smile on my face. I still do whenever I play that part. The people of Vault 13 rebelled after the Overseer kicked the Vault Dweller out, and he tried to make excuses in his little diary and why he was right. Fuck you. Your reasoning made no sense. As soon as people found out you could leave the vault, they would want to explore. It's human nature we want to discover. So that's what you get, Overseer from Fallout 1. You fucking bitch. Man, just thinking about going into Vault 13 and reading the little files that were left over and how he's squirming and trying to make excuses. That put a smile on my face. That is definitely some fucking poetic justice right there. Damn, there is so much to say about this game. I could go on for hours, but I'll try to keep this to a good time. That's going to be hard. There's so much to say. One of my favorite moments of Fallout 2 is infiltrating the Enclave base. For those that don't know, and if you're listening, you probably do know, because if you're listening to this video, you don't care about spoilers. This is a tribute video. But the Enclave are the leftovers of the United States government. I call them US government rejects because they don't matter anymore, but they still believe it's the good old American way. They believe it so much that they even have a president. Can you believe it? A president of the United States of America in the wasteland. Oh god, what a bunch of fucking jokes. But they're dangerous fuckers, and it sounds silly, but they are absolutely nuts. They are genocidal maniacs, and this goes back to my earlier point about Fallout 2 having some serious dark moments. The Enclave want to exterminate people they consider lesser beings. That's right, a fucking genocide. And your tribe? They ain't invited to the good party. In fact, damn near everyone in a wasteland ain't invited. And when you go into the final area of the game, the Enclave oil rig, and you see the experiments they are performing on people, it's really morbid and depressing seeing the bodies lying on the table all cut up. It's just pure evil. They kidnapped the people in your village and they killed the peaceful Deathclaws that lived in Vault 13. These Deathclaws helped me get the Gek, and the fucking Enclave destroyed them. And let's talk about that moment, shall we? Frank Horrigan, the main antagonist of Fallout 2, is a fucking asshole. You see him kill an innocent family. I saw that right in the beginning. Like the first 20 minutes. Well, probably like first hour. But right there in the beginning. This has to be one of the most OP, if not the most overpowered character in the Fallout universe. Think about it. This motherfucker walks into Vault 13 and he one punches a Deathclaw. One punch and this Deathclaw is eliminated. I don't know about you, but if I'm the chosen one and I see that security footage, I would panic, I would have a heart attack, and I would get back up and I would come to the conclusion that I have to jump this guy. No one-on-one, no 3 companions and me versus this guy. No, no, no. We get like 300 or 400 motherfuckers and equip them with as many Gauss rifles as possible. We also get dudes with plasma rifles and rocket launchers, phasers, whatever the fuck. Hey, let's go into a special encounter and get like 16 fucking alien blasters too. Something like that. We just get all this stuff and we handle this beast. There is no way, if I'm living in that world and I'm tasked with all this shit, there's no fucking way that I'm gonna fight Frank Horrigan 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or even those couple of Enclave soldiers. No, we're getting everyone in that motherfucker to help out, and we're shooting whatever the can we guys. We're shooting missiles, everything. Fuck that. Can you believe that shit? Frank Horrigan, this fucking beast, and they expect you to do all this shit. Holy fucking goddamn it. I better be elected president of whatever's left of the fucking world after all this. Fuck. I didn't mean to go on a rant, but Jesus fucking Christ, Frank Horrigan is OP like a motherfucker. And it doesn't help that you have to find a way to disable those fucking turrets, because if you don't do that, you probably ain't gonna win the fight. No, I take that back. Don't disable those turrets. Use them on Frank Horrigan. Shoot that motherfucker to death. That big motherfucker? Hell yeah, use those damn things. Now, think of all that. The Enclave are legit lunatics, madmen, sociopaths, psychopaths, whatever you want to call them. They're all those things combined, and just talking to the quote-unquote president confirms that. He just explains their plan confidently and very calmly. And I can just imagine if that was a real life conversation, you're just sitting right there in the president's office. It's all quiet. You don't hear a sound, maybe hear some machinery going on in the background. And he's not angry. He's not yelling at you. He's just having a relaxed conversation about genocide and mass slaughter. It's wild, and this is one of the differences between Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 for me. I can sympathize with Richard Gray, aka the Master from Fallout, When you learn about his history, it's sad. He got dumped into the forced evolutionary virus and turned into a fucking abomination. And you can feel sorry for the guy. I mean, over the years, of course he's gonna go insane. Anyone would go insane. But the Enclave, I don't feel sorry for them at all. They're just supremacists that are stuck in the past and can't let go of the fact that things are drastically different now. This isn't the pre-war era. No one gives a damn about the United States, and it isn't coming back. It can't come back. As much as I loved Fallout 2, I feel that they dropped the ball on the final boss, antagonist, whatever you want to call them. Frank Horrigan is very intimidating, and he's menacing, and he does have that presence about him, but he is kind of bland, especially compared to the Master. When you talk to the Master, you go into this deep conversation about what is best for humanity, and the Master goes into why he feels this way and why he thinks his way is the only way. He tells you that the normals, aka the humans, can't be trusted. They brought nuclear destruction, and he kind of has a point. It's something you remember. This conversation is something that stays in your head long after you beat the game. In Fallout 2, Frank Horrigan just brags to you and screams that he's in the Secret Service. Sure, you can say the main antagonist is the president, but Frank is the one we see causing destruction throughout the game, and at the end fight, it just wasn't really memorable. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Frank is a terrible character, and I do remember that fight, but he could have just used more character development. He is more of an overpowered lackey, and if that's what they were going for, that's cool, and I enjoyed it nonetheless, but I was expecting something more. This is just some criticism. It doesn't mean that I hate Frank or anything, but I'm just being honest here. I think they could have done more with Frank. Now, do I think Fallout 2's story is perfect? No. I do think that they should have changed up the pacing so it doesn't mimic the exact same pacing of the first Fallout game. If you look at it, it's the same thing. You go and do something for your people, something happens, and then you have to take care of a huge threat. It worked in Fallout 1, and I don't mind it in Fallout 2, but I think they should have tried being a little bit more original and tried to change the pacing up. I'm not a game designer, so I really don't know how, but it would have been nice to see something a little bit different. But it's a nice story, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the side quest. It's not perfect, and I've gone over my problems with the game, but I like it. It's good to see characters that knew about the Vault Dweller too, like that one person in Gecko that can actually follow you, that one ghoul. Although I don't recommend it because I don't think he's really useful, but hearing stories about him seeing the Vault Dweller, and of course Tandy, seeing her all grown up and unfortunately in charge of the NCR, but hey, she knew the Vault Dweller, and it's always good to see her come back and hear about her stories. Overall, it's an enjoyable game. And despite my problems with the game, I love it. It's my favorite Fallout game, and that's a tough thing to choose because it's a three-way between Fallout, Fallout 2, and Fallout New Vegas, but I give the slight nudge to Fallout 2. Now back to what I was saying before. When I discovered the Enclave base, Navarro, I was worried that I wasn't going to make it out of there. You gotta remember, it was my first time playing the game, and I was having a hard time. I was somehow making it through, but just getting to that damn base was a pain, and I was lazy and didn't get the car. So I'm constantly getting attacked by 3-4 Enclave soldiers and desperately trying to run out the area with my life. I make it through the totally legit real gas station and get inside the base, and I'm wondering, what the fuck do I do here? I take a couple of steps, talk to some people, and as soon as I talk to a certain person, Arch Dornan, he starts yelling at me. I got some power armor from the military base, so I'm good, but he puts me on fucking guard duty. So I'm sitting here wondering, do I wait for something to happen? Fuck that, I'm going to explore. Thankfully I did that because I got the Enclave armor, and now I can look like a fucking bug. Hooray! But the armor is really good, so I'm not going to miss that. And I was tasked with finding the Retrobird plans for the Brotherhood of Steel in San Francisco, but these bug-looking motherfuckers attacked my village. This was one of my favorite moments in the game. I did not know what to expect when I entered the base. I thought I was going to get attacked by a dozen Enclave soldiers at any time, and the developers did a good job using the Necropolis theme for Nevario, or should I say reusing it. It works well. So many goddamn experiences to talk about. There's just a lot to go through. Now I can't forget about my good old friend Harold. I'm glad they put him in this game, and I think they did his character justice. When you go to Gecko, it's just a regular old town with a plant that is breaking down, and Harold is in charge. He still has the same old, I call it sunny boy sense of humor, where it's someone who is old enough and been through a lot, but they still have lighthearted humor and can insult you pretty well too, in a friendly way. He helps the citizens of Gecko even though they are under threat due to the jackasses at Vault City, and instead of leaving, abandoning ship, he stays there and he wants to help. But Harold, all the shit that he's been through, he still finds a way to keep his sense of humor and be humble. That's pretty badass, and I kinda wish he'd done something about that fucking tree growing out of his head, but hey, you can't do anything. He's a badass, plain and simple. One of the most shocking moments of Fallout 2 for me is finding out about the Brotherhood. In the first game, they had a major influence, especially with helping your character. They were a great asset. I mean, due to their research labs, you find out that the Master's plan can't work because super mutants are sterile, and you can use that against him. You can outsmart him and win the fight that way instead of just fighting him head on. But in Fallout 2, they go from being a major influence, from having a huge base with plenty of people, to just not having that much influence. They look like they're struggling, and that really surprised me when I went to San Francisco and I helped them get the Vetrabird plans, and I found out there was only one motherfucker there, and I went into that base and it was empty. It looked like a ghost town. It looked deserted. I was shocked. I mean, this is a major step for the Brotherhood of Steel. The Enclave pushed them out the way. They're the guys with the power armors that have some influence and powerful. The Brotherhood of Steel, they're just lacking. And it makes sense. Their philosophy, they're very stubborn and they're kind of snobs, and they only want certain people to be allowed in, and they only want certain people to breed. And of course, over time, that's not going to work if you don't accept new members, and you just have this very strict policy due to who can come in and who can become a member of the Brotherhood of Steel. Doesn't matter how intelligent you are or how much influence you hold at that time. If you don't think about the future and try to get a sizable army, then it's just not going to work, and that's what happened to them. And New Vegas really portrayed the Brotherhood of Steel very well. I think that's the perfect way to represent their vision and what happened to them. Brilliant people with great technology that failed due to their arrogant beliefs, their snobbery, whatever you want to call it. And I wish they would continue that with future Fallout games. I don't think they are, due to what Bethesda has done in the past. They keep propping the Brotherhood of Steel up as a major influence when they should be extinct by now. But Fallout 2 started that trend, and I just think they should have continued it. But looking back at this game, and going from Fallout 1 to Fallout 2, I'm sure it was a shock for many people to see how much of a dire situation it was for the Brotherhood of Steel. They looked like they were on their last legs. Now, I can't mention everything about this game in this video, but I can't make a video like this without talking about New Reno. This particular area got a lot of attention during development, and it shows. I keep bringing this up in a lot of my Fallout videos, but listen, you can be a porn star with some hilarious names. Rod Rocks, the Polish Hammer, Arnold Swollen Member, that's my favorite one, and more. It was very creative, but I realized something. I can probably make it as a stand-up comic. My proof is, well, my character in this game, he did pretty well in one of the casinos. He kicked someone off the mic, and thankfully my speech and charisma was high enough that I didn't get booed off stage. Actually, I think comics get shot off stage in New Reno. This is an area I just enjoyed the aesthetic of too. I mean, look at it. On one side of the street there's a porn studio and just rundown buildings in areas that resemble ghettos. But you can go to another side and you see big flashy casinos with stereotypical mobsters standing outside the door. Seriously, they look like they could have been part of Murder Inc. in the 1940s, or some lackeys for Vito Genovese or something like that. To me, New Reno is a reminder of two things: pre-life society and the appetite of humankind. And I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about addiction, greed, gambling, sex, drugs, and more. If I was in that world, I would probably be fucking and getting drunk every day myself, just to cope with reality. I don't know about Jet though, maybe Buff out. I need that extra agility and some endurance. This is a place where vices run wild, the biggest small town in the world. When you look at the aesthetic of Vault City, not the politics or the way the city is run, I'm just talking about looks. It's what the future is supposed to look like. It's what the Garden of Creation kit brings us. Vault City is the complete opposite. It's a small slice of pre-war life, good and bad. Speaking of New Reno, I got a question. What sense would it make for Golden Gloves porn to exist? If you're shooting photos and magazines to sell later on, I guess that can be lucrative, but using a holo projector to make videos, how are you going to mass market that and make money? What do? Do you have like a showing every Wednesday, Thursday or whatever and charge people 50 caps? Do you put it on holo disc and hope to God other people have projectors so they can see it? I don't understand how that would work. Who would want to be a porn star in that world unless you're trying to get some sex with little pay or whatever? I don't understand how that works. Do some of the mafia families in that town keep it running? Or is it just a front for drugs or something like that? It has to be a front for some illegal activity. I don't understand how they can run as a business. How many holo discs can you find in the world and how can you spread them out? Maybe some perverts in Vault City can get them through the underground market, but how does it work? How does Golden Glove porn stay alive? I don't know, that's just one of those questions I've always had throughout my playthroughs. Using a holodisc projector? How many projectors are there in the world? Anyways, I don't know, I guess I would try to go for it, but I wouldn't be no fluffer or something like that. Doing that for 5 caps and getting poisoned? Fuck that. And as you can see, this area got a great amount of attention and it shows. The attention to detail on the streets, the casino lights that are barely functional, and you just see fucking shitty streets, you see drug dealers, you see neon lights, which must be a luxury in that world. It's not all doom and gloom in a wasteland. Not just tribal villages or broken down towns. New Reno is a small little beacon of light. In a world that desperately need ones, flaws and all. I would probably stick to New Reno for a while, or maybe San Francisco. Definitely not Vault City. Fuck that place. During my first playthrough, I decided I didn't want to use any guides. I didn't care if I ran into an area I shouldn't have been and died. I wanted to see as much of it as I can on my own. And when I found out I was going to visit Vault 13, I was excited. I wanted to see what happened to this place. Was it abandoned? Would I find dead bodies? People fighting over it? Or just an empty vault? I got lucky. I did get to this pretty late in my playthrough and thankfully I invested in science, which is something I don't really do unless it's New Vegas. But I invested in science and thanks to the computer in Vault 15, I saw the words Vault 13 pop up. I discovered the location. If there was anyone there, I was expecting a small group of Brother to Steel members still trying to hold on. Maybe they went to Vault 13 and are hiding out. I still thought they had a major influence. I just thought they moved to Vault 13 as a symbolic gesture of the Vault Dweller and their victory against the Master. Think about it. If some hostile group comes across Vault 13 and decide they want to kill whatever is inside and loot the place, that can be an issue. But imagine if the BOS was living there and this hostile group knows the history and they see BOS members inside the vault. That would mindfuck a lot of people and it's a good way to keep people out. Over the years, people have had heard the story of the Vault Dweller over and over, and with time comes exaggerations. So what's better than BOS and Vault 13 combined? Some people would run at first sight. They probably would think it was bad luck to fuck with that place. That's just some thoughts. But that's not what I discovered. When I went back to Vault 13, I saw a Deathclaw just sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, these motherfuckers put like 20 goddamn Deathclaws in there, and I gotta fight these fuckers with Marcus and dog meat. What the fuck? But that didn't happen. I was shocked by what I saw. A bunch of smart Deathclaws, and they aren't jumping me. Thanks Space Jesus, I don't have to fight 20 damn Deathclaws. But I was also surprised. A group of intelligent Deathclaws that are peaceful? An experiment gone right? They were the result of Enclave tests and did their bidding until they gained their freedom. I wouldn't have guessed it in a million years, and it's a damn shame that Frank had to go in there and just slaughter everybody, well, almost everyone. But I did find one of my favorite companions though, Gortys, the albino Deathclaw, and I made sure he avenged his brothers. Fallout 2 is a different game from the first one, that's for sure. But there are similar things. Fallout 2 and Fallout 1's story, they're different, but the pacing is the same. At least that's what I think. In the first Fallout game, you have to get the water chip, and you feel that that's the main thing you have to do, like that's the only thing. But once you get the water chip, you go back to your vault, and you think everything's fine until you find out there's a threat to society, the Super Mutant Army, and you have to figure out what or who is behind it. and what the hell is going on? In the second Fallout game, you have to find a Garden of Eden creation kit, and you feel that that's the main thing you have to do. Of course, you have to save your village, but once you do get the GEC, your village gets attacked, and Vault 13 gets attacked, and you find out that you have to deal with the Enclave. They're the big threat. They're the people that you have to deal with. Although Fallout 1, it's a bit more secretive about who the person behind this great threat is, even though you can learn about him from Harold, but still, you don't know about this entity until you go into the final part, the cathedral. But in Fallout 2, they kind of in your face. Like, Frank Horgan is a different type of beast. He's in your fucking face. I mean, you can go into an encounter and you can see it right in the beginning of him just killing an innocent family. He just doesn't give a fuck. So the main story's pacing is similar, but the Enclave, I felt overall they were better enemies to deal with, because even though they were a pain in the ass, the fact is, as soon as I got the power armor in the first Fallout game, the super mutants really didn't bother me. They didn't really kill me. I could just go through them pretty easily. But even with getting power armor and the plasma rifle and just leveling up my skills, I still had tough fights with the Enclave. I just feel that the Master is a better antagonist, or some ways you can look at him, maybe he isn't an antagonist, but whatever, he's a better final person you talk to, or whatever you want to call it, than Frank Horgan. And that's nothing against Frank Horgan. It's hard to follow up the Master, but yeah, that's just how I feel about the story. Although there are similar themes here, and the way their pacing is kind of the same, even though Fallout 2 is a fucking much bigger game, and I do recommend getting the car. You see, in this gameplay, you're not going to see me using the car because I tried to relive my first playthrough. I was trying to make the same decisions just to show you kind of like my perspective when I was first playing the game, but use the car. I mean, you don't have to. I got a lot of experience points and a lot of battles and a lot of stuff not using the car because you had to fight a lot, but it's just a big ass fucking map, and sometimes when you're traveling it can go really slow because you see a lot of fucking encounters. Luckily, I leveled up my outdoorsman skill a lot, so I could avoid a lot of stuff, and that did work out in the long run. It's the only Fallout game where I ever invest in outdoorsman. Damn, looking at my notes, I've covered a lot. I applaud the team that worked on Fallout 2. I applaud the people that were involved, especially due to the circumstances with several key members leaving development early on and just it being rushed. This game came out 1 year after Fallout. Fallout was in development for a couple of years, but the sequel, it came out literally 1 year after the first game. It was rushed and it was a hectic schedule. And with everything involved, with all that being said, the team did a great job, but there are some issues and there are things that should have been refined, and they should have took at least 6 months to work on. And one of that is the combat system. Now, Fallout 1 didn't have the greatest AI, I have to admit, especially the companion AI. There could be some bullshit moments, but Fallout 2 didn't really work on that either. I don't mind a game with a challenge. I don't mind fighting 5 enemies at once, and Fallout 2 certainly did give me a challenge, especially with the Enclave. But there are some bullshit moments. The combat can be fucking chaotic as hell. For example, I was in Vault 15 and I was dealing with the bandits and one of their leaders. I was trying to get those motherfuckers out of there. I just ran through their leader and 3 of his henchmen like nothing in that first room. I mean, they were shooting me with rifles and things like that. I think one had a shotgun. Everything was going fine. And just before that, I had a motherfucker try dumping on me with a machine gun. Not a machine gun, my bad. A minigun. And he only did like 8 damage. I was wearing power armor, not the Enclave power armor yet. The power armor that you get from the military base. So I was wearing that. And I was doing fine. I was just running through them. Not much of a challenge. Then this one chick runs up to me, hits me with a knife. All of a sudden, she did a critical hit. She pierced right through my armor and she does like 70, 80 damage and I'm dead. Wait a minute. All these people were dumping on me with their fucking machine guns, shotguns, whatever, and especially a motherfucker with a minigun before I got there. They didn't kill me, but some chick goes up there with a knife and luckily gets a fucking critical hit on me and wow, does like 70 damage. while I'm shooting this motherfucker with a plasma gun, and the most I can get is like 50 when I'm trying to hit them in the eye, and the regular damage is like 25 at that time. I wasn't the greatest at energy weapons, but still I should have did more than 25 damage to her. There's some bullshit moments like that. There's some balancing issue with the combat. Definitely it needed more refinement. It's just there are moments like that where you will run into bullshit, and someone can say, well, the power armor, you know, that has certain stats against stuff, it might not be the best towards melee. Nah, that's bullshit. It's just, as much as I love the game, I can admit it, the combat can be bullshit sometimes. I don't think they had enough time to work and refine that, or to just completely overhaul it and make it better. There are some moments where some of the damage doesn't equal up. You can be dumping on motherfuckers and you'll be lucky to hit them for like 50 damage or whatever, or you'll be lucky to get a critical hit, but somehow they're magically fucking just owning you. Even if you level up and you have a good amount of hit points, like over 100, and you have the Enclave power armor, there are moments like that, and it can be bullshit, and I can understand why it can turn people off, especially if you're in a long ass battle where you're fighting like 6 dudes. Sometimes it can be really harsh on you. I do appreciate the challenge in this game, but they should have just worked on either overhauling the system or just refining it. I think they would have been better just tweaking it and refining it, but they probably didn't have time to do that. They only had like a fucking year. It's not impossible to get through, but there are moments like that. Every game has its flaws, and this game is no different, and I'm not going to act like this game has no issues. Here's some tips from me. What I do in the beginning of the game, this is what I call the Che method, even though I'm sure other people do it. As soon as I leave the den, I save, and be sure to save a lot, because this is going to be a long trip when you do this, and you're probably going to die due to the random encounters. I travel between New Reno and San Francisco because you can run into some enemies, and if you're lucky, you'll run into 2 gangs fighting each other, like the Yakuza and the Mafia, or a group of caravan people and raiders, something like that, or a group of hobologists fighting raiders, whatever the fuck. You can run into stuff like that, and you can just sit back and watch these 2 groups of people fight it out, and the people that die, you just loot them, and you can get some really good stuff. I'm talking assault rifles, magnums. You might get like an H&K Caws, H&K CAWS, I think that's what it's called. It's like a really good shotgun, especially for the beginning, and you can just stack all of this up. Especially with the hobologists, they can have some good stuff, especially if you're good at throwing. You can find their plasma grenades and just put them to good use. So that's what I do, and after I loot some stuff, I take the stuff I don't need, I go to San Francisco, and I sell all that stuff there, get money, then I can just buy myself some armor, some regular armor, metal armor from the shop in New Reno, and that's right in the beginning. I can have an assault rifle, I can use a magnum, I can use one of their shotguns, whatever. You can keep doing that until you get a lot of money or the stuff you need. It's not going to make the game magically easier where you can just one-shot everything. No, but it does give you a good head start, especially with the way the game can get difficult later on, especially when you have to deal with the Enclave or some of the challenges they put you up against. Going to the military base, you have to fight like 30 super mutants. Even though it wasn't that hard for me, the first time I played that game, I got stuck in the elevator, and I was just hiding in the elevator and just hoping that Marcus could just take out some of them with his minigun while I just sit back and just pick some of them off little by little, because there was a lot of super mutants in there, but it's worth it because that's where you get the fucking power armor, and that's what I recommend. Or you can just go to the Enclave, sneak in there and get their Enclave armor. I recommend doing that, but the military base has some good stuff, so that's what I do. Usually the type of characters I play, I always stick with one build, especially if I'm doing a playthrough where I'm recording, because that's just what I go back to, it's what I know. I like making an energy weapons character. I like using the phaser that you find in Special Encounter. I like using the plasma rifle, the laser rifle. I like using the weapons that require small energy cells instead of pistols or magnums. That's just what I go back to, especially the Gauss rifle. Now, I almost missed out on this playthrough of getting the Gauss rifle, but luckily, I went to the tanker in San Francisco, and I killed that one motherfucker that had it in that bar, and I had to kill some other people in there, but overall, I didn't alert everybody in the town, and I just used the Gauss rifle. But that's the type of character I go through. Of course, I invest in speech and lockpicking, and later on go for science and outdoorsman. But next playthrough, I want to play a character with a big gun, someone that's really good at using that, because I want to use a minigun, I want to use a rocket launcher, I never really played a big guns build, so it'll be interesting next time to try that out, but I always go for energy weapons. I just like using that phaser and the plasma rifle. I don't know why. That's just what I do. One thing that Fallout 2 does better than Fallout is the companions. They are more fleshed out, they have more interesting backgrounds, and they're just useful. The companions in Fallout 1, I didn't really use them, and I really don't use companions anyway in Fallout games. Most of the time, I usually like going by myself, except if it's like New Vegas, because I really like the companions in that game. And it's just, I don't know, that's just the way I am. I just like trying to do everything by myself. But in Fallout 2, the companions, I actually like bringing them along with me. In my first playthrough, it took me till like near the end until I started to actually appreciate them. But as I played the game more and more, I brought them on from the very beginning. Whether it's Vic, even though he's fucking useless, or the fucking tribal guy from Klamath, I forgot his name. It's just, they're just more fleshed out. That's one thing they did improve on, are the companions. And Myron and Marcus are probably two of my favorite companions in the game, even though I really like Dogmeat. I mean, you gotta think about it. When you go see Marcus in Broken Hills, he's this big fucking super mutant, and he used to be in the Master's army. And now he's a sheriff of a town that has some conspiracy going on between some members beside it. It's like this underlying conflict over the past 80-something years between super mutants and humans, and most people learn to get along except for a couple of bad apples. And when you have a conversation with Marcus, you will find out that he's blunt and he will tell you how he feels. He doesn't want to kill all humans. He doesn't have that mentality anymore. He left the super mutant army a long time ago. He's been around for a while. And him and a human became friends. I believe it was a Brotherhood of Steel member. And of course he outlived him, and now he's the sheriff. But when you talk to him, he tells you that he actually thinks the Master's plan was the right way. And when you try to talk to him about it, I'm looking at him like, yeah, I don't agree with you, but you do have a point about humans, because he's been around for a while, and what progress have they made ever since, the Master fell? His way wasn't the right way, but it's not like humans are doing any better, so it's kind of like that weird, awkward thing when you talk about what super mutants can accomplish or versus what humans can accomplish, but he was still agreeing with them, and I'm looking at him like, okay, just don't turn on me. I hope you're not one of these double fucking two-faced motherfuckers, and at the end you end up turning on me. I hope you remember that humans can be good too, but he's an awesome character. I like bringing him around. Did I mention that you can have a companion called Skynet, a self-aware smart computer? That's pretty out there, huh? But not for Fallout 2. It perfectly makes sense in this world. Just saying, Skynet, a self-aware computer. But the companions I usually stick with are Marcus, Goris, Myron, Cassidy, and Dogmeat. I gotta have Dogmeat around. Dogmeat's classic. But Goris, I'm a big fan of Goris because of his background, and he's an albino Deathclaw. And I like his little animation during battle where he takes his robe off or whatever, and he's just him in all his glory. So Goris, you are a motherfucker in a good way. But that's the companions that I choose to go with. I try to get Skynet in some of my other playthroughs, but I end up getting lazy. So Fallout 2 definitely improved when it comes to the companions. It's definitely a step up from Fallout. You can tell them to do different things during combat, and yeah, sometimes it's still kind of stupid, because if you have Marcus, for example, and he has a minigun, he still hits you sometimes, and it can be a pain in the ass, but you can adjust it and you can try to work around it, and it's not as annoying, not even close to being as annoying as before. It's definitely a step up. This is a sequel, so special encounters do return, and they did not disappoint. I ran into a crash shuttle, and I got a phaser from Star Trek. I ran into a Guardian portal, and when I first saw this, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Am I gonna transport somewhere? Am I gonna time travel into the future, or I'm gonna warp into an area I don't want to be? And I go in there, and I go back to Vault 13, and it's really fucking creepy how all that happened. Just a heads up, if you have the restoration mod installed and you have the cut content put in there, and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, pops up in your game, when you go and do the portal special encounter and you go back to Vault 13 that way it was in that portal, the Solar Scorcher won't be there. I found that out and I was kind of disappointed because then I had to go through the EPA, and I was just used to getting it through that special encounter because I love that. That's a really interesting gun. Hey, it uses sunlight, so come on, it's a good weapon. I like using it. I like special encounter weapons like the Alien Blaster from Fallout 1 or the Solar Scorcher, but yeah, if you're using that mod and you have the cut content installed, you're gonna have to go through the EPA. And yes, that's one interesting area to say the least. In another special encounter, I ran into a talking head and this thing kept on wanting to fucking talk to me. In another special encounter, I ran into some guy on a bridge and I answered his questions the right way and he died. And I got his robe, which they remind me of the Unity from Fallout 1. One special encounter really made me laugh. King Arthur's Knights. You see all these people in power armor, they're spouting gibberish, and I'm sure you know what this is a reference of. But in one special encounter, they were fighting a rat, and you see all these really beefed up fucking power armor wearing people. They got awesome weapons, and they're getting their asses kicked by this rat. And it actually benefited me because a lot of them died, and I was able to get so many microfusion cells I didn't have to worry about it. I got like 400 from that, and that was great for me and my plasma rifle. But you just see some really crazy shit in this game. Although one special encounter really did annoy me, the bad luck dog. I ran into this fucking dog and god damn it, it was so annoying because this motherfucker would not stop following me, and I needed to go into the Enclave, but I gotta be by myself, and I have this dog following me. So I ran into the fucking trees or whatever, the forest, whatever you want to call it, near the gas station, and I killed that motherfucker, but he took like so many hits. That was so annoying. So there's definitely some unique special encounters in this game. So at the end of the day, Fallout 2 doesn't have the same sense of haunting isolation, that feeling that the walls are closing in, and when you're just walking into an area, it just feels like the longest hallway or whatever you want to call it in the world because you just don't know what's around the corner. It's that creepy, and that could be from some certain things. Maybe Fallout was this person's first Fallout game, so to them it's brand new, so when you go to a sequel, you already know what to expect. But Fallout 2 does trade some of that to be more in your face. Frank Horrigan's in your face. There's more pop culture references. There's more goofy stuff. But that doesn't mean that there aren't haunting and disturbing things in Fallout 2. That it's not serious, because there are serious moments. It just takes a bit of that away. It's still there. It just takes a bit of it and trades it to be more in your face, to have more attitude, whatever you want to call it. It was the 90s, so pop culture references and all. And I don't mind Fallout 2's slight change in tone. I think that this is a great sequel. It's a great follow-up. It doesn't take Fallout 1 and just copy and paste it with a different time or anything like that. It's the same Fallout formula with a slightly different approach. It didn't try to be so different and try to overdo it to the point where it ruined it, but it also did not play it safe, because they could have just tried to copy and paste the first Fallout and just try to do a follow-up where they try to copy all the same elements, the same pacing, just 100% everything from Fallout and just transfer it to like 20 years later or nothing. No, they tried something different. They didn't completely play it safe. There are still those same elements from the first Fallout, especially with the pacing from the main story. They're almost identical. Here, get this item. Oh wait, something happened after you got this item and now you have to deal with a threat. But still, it's the way they tell the story. And to me, I don't mind Fallout 2's change of pace, as I said before. And think about this. I've been talking about this game, telling you how I feel about it, reminiscing about my first playthrough, and just saying a whole bunch about it for over 50 minutes, and I haven't mentioned everything. And that's for a reason. It would be a really long video, and I'm just not going to do that. That's not the purpose of this video, and I want you to discover or rediscover it for yourself. If you haven't played this game in a long time, then replay it with a different build and see how it affects your game and see how it affects your experience that time. And go back and explore places that you really didn't explore before. Or if you're a fan of the Fallout series and you haven't played this yet, then what are you waiting for? Play this. If you haven't played Fallout, play Fallout, then play this. If you're an RPG fan, play this. I recommend everyone try this game out. I believe these games should be played. To me, that's just how I'm saying, because I love these games, so I think everyone should play them. And as I said before, I didn't even mention everything. This game just has a fuckload of content. The NCR. I didn't even mention anything about the NCR. Yeah, this game did introduce the New California Republic. Yay, and I'm totally serious about that. Fuck the NCR. But they're in this game. Vault City. I didn't say much about Vault City because I'm doing a separate video about that. The Toxic Caves. There's just a lot of content in this game, so what are you waiting for? Play this game. It's the 20th anniversary. Thank you for watching this video. If you've made it this far, then I'm really happy because you put up with me rambling on for 50 minutes, and that makes me happy because sometimes I can just go on, and I'm glad someone out there likes to listen to it. Let me know what you think. You can leave a comment if you want. Have a great day.